Hello everyone. Let's head on to our first case. Case 1. Am I the bad person for telling my son's girlfriend to stay away from him because she is distracting him from his responsibilities? With update. I, 50M, am a single father to my son, 15M. My then girlfriend got addicted to drugs and walked out shortly after he was born. She is no longer in our lives. My son has been making exceptional grades and he plays for his high school's baseball team. He is pretty good at that, though my opinion may be a little biased, lol. Anyway, that was until he started dating a girl, 17F. They met when they were assigned as partners on a project, and I guess they hit it off pretty fast because this came out of the blue for me when I picked him up one day and he just said, "Dad, I have a girlfriend now." I was proud and excited for him that my son was finally becoming a man. I also had a remedial version of the talk with him. Can never be too careful. They've been dating for the past few months and they seem very happy together, but my problem is that my son's grades have been slipping. He's been skipping out on chores at the house and missing practice/games. I'm not mad that he is dating. However, that should come after business, school, baseball, etc. So last week I told him that he is no longer allowed to spend time with her unless he gets his shit together. He responded, "But Dad, I really like this girl." I told him that doesn't matter. If you fail and flunk out of school, I don't want you seeing her, and that's final. He signed and said fine. I figured that was the end of it. Well, until yesterday when I come back home from the store and I found them on the living room couch together. He lied to me and said he would have a friend over to study. My son froze like a deer in headlights. I told him to go to his room, and then I turned to his GF. Now I'll admit that I might have been a little stern, but I told her to get the hell out of my house and stay away from my son. He doesn't need this distraction, and if I ever catch you two together again, it won't be pretty for either of you. Then the waterworks started, and she stormed out. I go upstairs to my son, who was already on the phone, telling my mother and my sister his aunt and grandmother have always spoiled him. I take the phone and try to explain, but I get lectured for being too hard on him, he's just a boy, etc. I'm just trying to keep my son from ruining his life before it even starts. If he fixes his grades and everything, he can see her again. So I figured it'd be best to get an unbiased third-party opinion. Am I the bad person? Update. Okay, so first, I'd like to thank everyone for taking the time to give me this well-deserved, years-long, overdue attitude adjustment. I was an asshole in this situation. While I was in the right to be worried about my son's academic performance and his responsibilities at home, I'll admit that I let my temper get the best of and I acted on impulse with how I handled this situation. I shouldn't have yelled at that girl. After talking to my son, it turns out that he never told her that he wasn't allowed to see her. She didn't know, and I should have gone to my son instead of taking it out on her. My job plus the past trauma from my ex leaving are not stresses that I can self-manage anymore. I'm done lying to myself, and I will be looking into therapy soon. My son has invited her over for dinner later this week. I plan to apologize and explain the situation, and I'll try to work with them to have fair rules that will encourage my son to stop slacking off while also allowing him to spend time with her. You get more flies with honey and vinegar, and prohibition will only make my son lie and sneak around, which could lead him to doing dangerous/irresponsible things. I showed my son some of the comments, and he's been laughing his ass off at everyone roasting me, lol. I may post another update this week after dinner if I remember. What do you guys think? Lay down your ruling in the comments section and let's move on to our next story. Case 2. Am I the bad person for refusing to consider being an organ donor for my abusive father even after my siblings begged me to save him? My father was abusive to me, 20 SM, but was never abusive to my siblings, all 8+ years younger than me. We're full siblings. He is my father as much as theirs. But he always treated me like shit, and our mother allowed it, so I don't have anything too nice to say about her either. In her own way, she tried to be there for me. But she didn't save me from him, and she sure as hell didn't prioritize making my life better. The abuse my father inflicted on me was physical and emotional, and it lasted my entire childhood. I know he never did the same to my siblings. They told me, and I know not everyone can see it, but I have witnessed him with them, and the difference is night and day. I'd even say he was a good parent to them, and if I didn't exist he could be called a good father overall. But I was there and he did abuse and hate me. He didn't care what happened to me. I'm not going into specifics about which organ or what his condition is. But my father is now sick and needs a transplant. Think kidney or liver. I'll also say it wasn't self-inflicted, this condition, because I know that gets asked when stuff like this comes up. My mother and siblings were all tested and didn't match, My father's siblings and some of their kids were tested and there wasn't a match. Some of his friends got tested and they weren't a match. They have him on the transplant list, but he gets sicker and they don't know if a match will come forward in time. My siblings reached out to me to ask me to get tested and donate if I'm a match. They told me it's looking really bad and he could die. They said they can't lose him and they know I hate him. They know he put me through hell and abused me. But they wanted me to do it for them instead of him, so they can have him for another however many years. They were pleading and frantic and even offered to make sure I got some money from our parents to make up for everything. I felt bad for them and how awful they felt, but I told them I couldn't put myself through something like that to save his life. I said even for them it was too big of an ask. They brought up how serious this is again, and I told them I know, but it won't be from me if he gets what he needs. I told them I needed them to accept it and focus on being there with him. They said some stuff after. I won't go into it all, and I'm not even mad because they're still so young and their experience with the man is so different than mine. None of them were ever abused. But I have grappled with should I have agreed for them. At least getting tested and knowing if everyone else wasn't a match, the likelihood I would be was tiny anyway, and I could have spared them the upset. Am I the bad person? What do you guys think of this one? Let us know in the comments section, and let's move on to our next story. Case 3. Am I the bad person for walking out of a work day because they wouldn't let me eat inside? I work in an office that is relatively small, about 10 people total. About twice a year we do big cleanup days on both the inside and outside. In the name of being frugal, my boss assigns the outside work to us instead of hiring a landscaping crew. I have prior landscaping experience and I made the mistake of letting them know that, so I was assigned to a lot of the stuff outdoors. Everyone else stayed inside for a vast majority of the day. I had to climb up on the roof and clean the gutters, scrape a bunch of sediment deposit out of our lower parking lot with a shovel, take a wire wheel on an angle grinder and strip the paint off of an outside stairwell and prime it for painting, lay out new pine straw and all of the outside shrub beds, and a few other things. Naturally, over the course of the day I got dirty. It's part of working outside. I wasn't filthy, but I had some dust and dirt on my shoes. They ordered pizza for us, and when I went to go inside, our office manager stopped me and said that I couldn't come in because they had just got done cleaning the floors. I told them that I would happily sweep up and mop anything I tracked in, and that I would really like to eat inside because it was hot outside and I hadn't gotten to cool off all day. She still refused. Then my boss heard us talking and came over and we explained the situation. He agreed with our office manager and told me that I would have to eat outside. I told them that I did not appreciate that I was asked to do some pretty gnarly labor and was now being denied entry because I was a little dirty. I then told them that I was going to leave for the day. My boss asked me not to go, but still stood by the decision to not allow me inside. And I tried to explain to him that I felt like I was being treated unfairly, but that seemed to fall on deaf ears. I ended up leaving, and a couple hours later I got some messages from my coworkers that were upset with me because they ended up having to go out and finish up a couple of things I couldn't get to after lunch. Am I the bad person? Did I unfairly leave my coworkers in a bad spot? I can understand where they're coming from, but I really felt like I wasn't being treated correctly, and I offered to clean up after myself if I made a mess. Can't wrap my head around that story. What do you think? Who is in the wrong there? Let us know down in the comments section, and let's move on to our last case. Case 4. Am I the bad person for telling my wife's affair partner about their affair? I, 37M, have been married to my wife, 37F, for 11 years and together for 16. We have 3 kids together, 14M, 9M, and 3F. We own our house together. Our relationship has been a roller coaster, to say the least. I've been a terrible partner and companion to her for the majority of our relationship. I haven't cheated on her in more than 5 years, but the times I have in the past, it's clear now she never healed from the hurt. For the past 6 months, she reconnected with an old guy friend after his brother passed away. Since our relationship has just been on coast with no connection, she was vulnerable and opened up to this guy. She fell in love with him and they began having a relationship. In the meantime, I was oblivious to all of this. Even though there were signs, I didn't pick up on them. Fast forward to 2 weeks ago, her contempt towards me has brewed to the point I flat out asked her, "What's going on?" She said she's not happy, hasn't been for months, and she wants a divorce. I asked her if there's someone else. She lied initially, but eventually broke down and admitted she's in love with this guy and they had an affair last week. Up until that point, I'm the only guy she has ever slept with, so know how serious this actually is. I was hurt and broken. I know the guy from her family and know that he lives far away and has a wife of his own and children. In my hurt, I felt that his girlfriend had to the right know about this affair. I found a way to contact her and told her about it. She broke up with the affair partner and kicked him out. This in turn has snowballed into him not speaking to my wife. My wife, who is in love with this guy, is now not speaking to me about it. The truth has come out that the affair guy has just led my wife on and preyed on her vulnerability. He doesn't love her or want to be with her. She's heartbroken over it and blames me for telling her affair partner's wife. She won't speak to me now. Am I the bad person for telling the affair partner's wife? You've sat down, you've listened. Now, it's time to state your ruling. What is it gonna be? Let us have it down in the comments section down below. Thank you for watching. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and subscribe for more cases like these. In life, we may run, but we can never hide from true justice. Stay safe, everyone.